Alrighty, check, check, radio check. Want to thank everybody for taking time out of their busy schedules to join us. We'll get some latecomers, but if you know me, you know I like to start on time. Punctuality is important. Your time, my time, and starting on time. So with that said, we'll get started. But before we do, would somebody not mind typing into chat that A, you can hear me, and B, that you can see my screen? And thank you. We're good to go. All right, so. We're going to talk today about a product, and I don't normally talk specifically about products, but the last couple of weeks we have talked about investments, right? We've talked about longevity risk. We've talked about sequence of return. If you're going to be in the market, right, then what does that mean? And then we talked about the 4% rule. So as I talk about investments, there's the other side of the equation, which we've spoken about. Sometimes ad nauseum. Sometimes it's been a while since I've touched on some of this. So, on the right side of the economic forces is something that we call actuarial science. And so basically, it's the actuaries are able to predict basically on the law of large numbers how many people based on statisticians, how many people might die within a certain period of time, or how many people might live within a certain period of time. Now, annuities, that's what we're going to talk about today, have some unique benefits. And, one of those is something called longevity credits. And so we've gone over that today. I'm not going to go into detail, but I am going to talk about the product. But that's why we're on this topic again, is because it's been one of those that sometimes I think people just don't quite fully understand, or I always caution people think that they're I'm okay and I'm okay waiting and the market will come back and but sometimes if you've been through 2000 or 2007, 2008 with the housing bubble burst or even the flash crashes that happened in the 2017, 2018, right? That when you lose a large portion of your portfolio, that hurts, right? So what can we do? So remember that as we approach retirement, we enter into retirement, right? It's like being on unemployment for 30 years. We have to get this right. We have to make sure that our sources of income are identified and maximized. So in my experience, there's only three places where we can get guaranteed income in the world today. Social Security, an employee-sponsored retirement plan, or a defined benefit plan, or in plain English, a pension, and then taking personal savings and allocating towards an income stream. And that's what we're going to talk about here today. So, the successful retirement plan provides the ability to maintain your lifestyle for the duration of your life. The hallmarks of a successful retirement plan: safety. I can't emphasize this enough. I see quite often many folks that will hand me their statements, show me their asset allocations, are taking on way too much risk, more than they A, know that they are, and B, should probably be taking to get a reasonable rate of return. We don't need to take an exorbitant amount of risk to get or create the lifestyle that you want to enjoy. But yet so many people do, because they follow sort of water cooler advice, or they think they know, or because just because you did it during what we call the accumulation years doesn't mean it's the right solution. And then obviously income. It's about, retirement is about income. And I hold some letters, one of which is the RICP. It's a Retirement Income Certified Planner. Getting income correct and understanding how to integrate that with all your other pieces is critically important. And again, it's what I teach at my workshops and my classes. So let's go over a pension, right? A pension, defined benefit plans, DB plans, right? Pensions were created to provide retired employees, right, with a defined benefit income for the remainder of their lives. They were rewarded safety and income. So those goals were met. But pensions have been an important reward for public service, but now, or back like in say 35 became popular in the private sector, but now, as this slide says, starting in the late 1800s. I was not aware of that. I just know that, when I was first saw pensions and people, I just had a client on yesterday had a pension, and to see that in the private sector, they're becoming rarer and rarer. Like, we understand government typically will put those there, but a lot of the corporations, they are so expensive to actually oversee, have in place. That's why they got away from them and went to 401ks or defined contribution plans. So starting in the mid 1980s, defined contribution plans, 401ks and IRAs started to replace pensions. Now, defined contribution plans give workers more control over how their retirement savings are invested. So that sounds wonderful. The freedom to move between jobs without losing their retirement savings. So I get the flexibility. And again, 401ks, 403bs, IRAs, they're wonderful tools. However, defined contribution plans leave retirees with one major risk: longevity risk. And again, I've been doing my Social Security workshops. It's one of the number one risks we talk about. But what is it, and why does it matter? The risk that a retiree outlives his or her financial assets. Longevity risk, right? So let's say we retire at 65 and we have 30 years on this planet to 95. The other risk, and I could sit here and create a laundry list, right? Inflation, taxation, market risk, right? Death. I mean, I could go on and on with risk. But longevity risk is not just a risk, right? That's the risk that we live a long life and we run out of money, which is usually most people's fear. Well, it actually also highlights or spotlights, the other risk, like inflation. So, longevity risk, and one of the phrases that I've adopted is longevity risk is not just a risk, it's a risk multiplier. Meaning that not only is if the issue is taxation or market volatility, it's not likely to happen once in a 30-year period. It's likely to happen multiple times. And that's why we have to be very, very careful about what we're doing and how we're designing our retirement plans to make sure that we're stemming some of that volatility. So how did longevity risk arise? 401k IRA owners lost the benefit of pooled risks that allowed for the defined benefit. Those are pensions, income for life. So when these were created, they were great conceptually, but they lost these longevity credits. They lost the pooling effect. Why is everyone talking about this risk now? The risk of outliving one's financial assets has actually become more pronounced as medical advancements lead to longer lives. People are living longer. Medical advancements. We're healthier, right? We're eating better. So the chance of us living longer, we have to make sure we get this right, that we secure our income for the things that we need and also for the things that we want. And it can be done without taking an abundance of risk. So annuities can act as a pension substitute. So annuities were created to help retirees address today's number one planning risk, longevity, and annuities can act as a substitute for the key benefit of a pension, income for life. So what is an annuity? High level, right? You exchange premium, you trade an asset to an insurance company, and we like to use A-rated insurance companies. These are the oldest and largest financial institutions in the world, right, that are making their guarantees. So you get a contract, it's a contractual agreement, and then they will either guarantee lifetime income, or they'll be able to provide an environment that is beneficial for both a annuitant or somebody else, right, their spouse or continuing, and even a degree of long-term care. Today's products that have been created probably in the last 10 to 15 years are actually, I think, some of the best financial tools that I've seen in my career. And that's why I become passionate that they're not for everybody. If somebody walks in my office and goes, I hate annuities, okay, we won't talk about them. But just remember, there's risk. So insurance companies pool risk to help individuals manage unexpected circumstances. So life insurance, I think intuitively we all get that. We pool our money And then in the event that let's say that I'm going to be 60 this year. If I buy life insurance today, right, they're going to collect it from, let's just say 1,000 or 100,000 6-year-old males. And we're all going to put in whatever the cost of insurance to pay $1 million death benefit. It actually goes per thousand for 1 year. And then out of that pool, the actuaries know maybe 1 or 2 or 5 people numerically that they're going to have to pay out that $1 million. But everybody else that's left in that pool now will pay a little bit more for the following year. And that's how life insurance works. Well, longevity risk is, the actuaries say, well, what if you live too long? So what happens is if you die and you're in the annuitization phase, not the accumulation, but the annuitization, you're in the payout. The money that was left behind at the insurance company now is paying the other policyholders. That's how it works. It's the complete opposite. But quite often, the tools that we're in, the strategies that we're utilizing for families, we never annuitize. It can be done. That's how pensions are done. When you go through, I got a pension option today. Somebody's looking at what they should do and what election you should make. You're making pension elections. You're making annuity elections, right? But I just want you to understand, what can these tools do while from an accumulation phase, so we never actually have to turn on that income. And that's the key, is taking advantage of these growth mechanisms that are available. So remember, and I talked about this earlier before I actually get into the product, that if you want to be in the market and you say, I don't want an annuity, then 100% of your money needs to be in the market all the time. And that's risk. It's not right or wrong, just understand it. So if the market goes down 50% and you're drawing out of that to live on, well, you've locked in those losses. But when you have an annuity, and that's the 4% rule that we went over a few weeks back, but when you have an annuity in your portfolio, we can still be in the equities, but I can take a portion of that and I can now carve that out and provide guarantees. And understand that that word is not something, I'm in such a regulated industry, and especially, state of New York, state of New Jersey. I mean, I'm licensed in probably 10 different states across the country, and I cannot use that word unless it's factually true. So the insurance companies provide the guarantees in order for us to now lock in the sort of the safe money for the things we need that allow us to now invest the other money for the things we want. And if something happens in the volatility, and let's say the equity markets are down, well, now I don't have to draw from that account because I've already have a guaranteed income source, or I like to refer to this as a bond alternative, right? So we can actually take participation or participate in the upward trends. So I digress, but that's basically my high level overview. I feel that annuities get a lot of bad press. A lot of people don't understand them. They get partial information. So they're just tools, right? They just need to be designed properly, and then they need to be integrated to each individual's specific needs and goals. And then you can make informed decisions on how to put that in place. So 50% is available to generate the 40 grand, right? Because again, we have a withdrawal rate, and what's happening there is the longevity credits are allowing you to continue to draw on it while the rest of the money can be in the marketplace. So Allianz is one of the world's leading financial institutions in the world. And so, they have come out with a new product. It's the first time in my career. Everything that they've offered clients over the years has been an income design, an income chassis. But this is an accumulation chassis. And you'll notice that this is not for everybody on the call. If you're already, and you're going to see here 60 or greater, it's probably not best for you. But really the goal is, and this is really advantageous, we have to be sensitive to taxes. It's the taxes, it's the taxes, it's the taxes. If we're not careful about the environments that we save our money in and then distribute income from, we could end up being clobbered come tax time multiple times over multiple years. That's longevity risk and tax risk combined. Then we have index interest, right? So we're not in the market. That's a lot of things. Now there are different types of annuities that are in. I'm not a fan of variable annuities because you're in the market with all the risk. And those are the types of products that I think get a lot of bad press. And I'm sort of in that camp, right? That I think that those types of products are complex, I think misrepresented, and my experience has been extremely expensive, right? So when I look at those things, I don't like variable annuities, but I do like indexed annuities. And that's because we're not in the market. And I'm from the camp, we have to protect what we got. Let's use the guarantees from the financial institutions to shore up a portion of what we got. And that's where the protection comes in. But we can get the growth, right? If it goes up, and you're going to see that in the slide, we get the growth. But if it goes down, I don't want any of that. So who may be interested? And I think this is telling, right? So looking for an accumulation potential, right? If you think that right now with all the risks, global, geopolitical, we got conflicts in the Middle East and Russia, you got possibly China rattling their saber towards Taiwan and spy balloons flying over the country. We have an election year. We have market volatility. I could go on and on and on. There's always going to be something on the horizon. But if something pops off, and it is a World War III, right? Watch what happens to markets then. And the recovery time will be difficult to project, right? You can't look back at history and go, well, it's probably going to be similar to World War II or the Great Depression. I don't know, but I know it's not going to be pretty. And if we can turn around and take some of that risk off the table and say, you know what, no matter what happens, I'm in a good spot. So if you're looking for principal protection, and tax deferred growth. This is the difference in a CD. We're now in an environment, from an interest rate environment, that banks, you can't drive down a local main street and not see a sign out front. Look at my 12-month CD. Look at my 18-month CD. And they're okay rates, right? So we're back in the fives, right? Depending on the time frame. But remember, we pay taxes on that. So what happens is we get that 1099. So it's not a true return or APR, right? Because when you take into the tax effect. So annuities are afforded the luxury that we don't pay tax until we actually take the money. And as long as we don't, we get to kick that can down the road. And so we can be creative, we can be tactical with our planning, our tax planning. Flexibility and access to your money. This is key. They're not completely liquid, but typically with a little bit of thoughtfulness, we can have access to our funds to a meaningful amount should something unexpected happen, right? So we're not having to break a CD. We can get a withdrawal from the account to meet that need. Maybe the boiler broke, maybe the car broke down, right? I needed $20,000 like that. Well, you can do, a lot of these companies allow what they call a 10% free withdrawal. So you want to just make sure this company does. Could you benefit from a premium bonus? Who wouldn't like to get some cash up front and then timeline of at least 10 years? This is the key. So if you're 60 right now and retiring in 2 years, this is probably not the product if this is the only thing in your arsenal. But if you have other money, right? And if you're in your 50s and you're saying, hey, I'm not retiring for another 10 years, right? Well, then maybe it should be considered. It's a way to mitigate the risk. And we're happy to show you how that works. So Allianz has come out with this product. It's their first growth annuity ever that I know of. 13% premium bonus. Your initial premium, if you put that in, if we got 100 grand, your account's going to have 113. Within the first 18 months, you turn around, you're going, wow, I like that. I turn around and put in another, 50 grand. My second payment, that gets 13% bonus. And then you turn around and you're saying, hey, you know what? I like this so much. I want that again. They will, the first 18 months, any funds that are added to this. So maybe you have another annuity elsewhere and maybe you have some money set aside. So you want to put this together, but we know that in a year, that annuity is going to be out of surrender. You can 1035. That's a tax code that allows you not to pay tax on the money from one contract to another to allow you to go into these contracts. So again, this is, to me, very attractive. And I think it should worth considering depending on where you are in aspects to your retirement. So this chart here, again, zero is your hero, right? If we put 100 grand in, we know we're never going to lose a nickel. No fees, period. I'm not in the market. I only have upside potential. Now, depending on the caps, depending on the participation rates, the indexes, Allianz has 16 different indices we can create. But what I want you to see is on this chart, since 2004, when they back tested it, there are some pinks in here, right? These pinks reflect negative years. So the blue line is where the accumulator plus would have gone to. Notice that the gray line, it got there, it credited. I'm here in 2007, 2008, and the market fell out. That was a housing bubble burst, and it took a while, to get back. 2010. Now we got a little bit of credits because it's starting to come up based on where you were. And then as the market continued to run, we're getting these lock-ins on the upside. Now here in 2017, 2018, now the market's on a tear. But when the market drops, we don't lose anything. So these flash crashes, these drop-offs, COVID, right? All these things were happening. This section of the money was protected. And I think that's worth adding into your overall strategy so that we have a higher idea. And now here's one of the things that Allianz has that this has been, to me, it's taken me a while to get my head around it, and I'm going to keep it as simply as I can. But they have the ability now to actually give you a lock-in. So if now annuities are not as afforded as much of a cap or a participation rate as a life insurance. There's just less money available for on the option budget. But this aspect, because Allianz owns PIMCO, they can say, hey, listen, the index crediting rate, let's say, 6.25 was the cap. But if I was in a product like there, that had a higher cap or a participation, I can put a target up there that says once it gets there, lock it. I can't go backwards. And then you can start that drift if it goes down. So when we're dealing with contracts and looking with clients, and we have this conversation, sometimes one of the indexes will meet these thresholds. And I'll pick up the phone and call them saying, hey, I'm looking at your contracts, and I think we got this index has done well, and we want to lock it in. Remember, this is on the growth annuities. A lot of the income annuities have not performed like this, but the growth annuities, this is absolutely a possibility. And to be able to do this and almost put it on autopilot once a year, you can either put it in place or we can monitor it and then wait and see. And I've had several conversations with several clients over the last couple of years where all of a sudden we're seeing 50%, because let's say I do 50% in one index, 50% in another index, and one of them we're seeing 10, 11% credit. And I'll call them or I'll email them, say, hey, listen, I have the option to lock that. They're like, lock in that 50%. Now, the other index may not be performing, but at least we know now that we've secured a gain in the contract. So it really is a cool feature that Allianz is the only company in the marketplace that offers that. And again, I think it really shines in the growth annuities versus an income annuity. Lastly, I did my last class last Saturday. I thought it went really well. Full house. Met a lot of great people. We've got one more class that is this Saturday. I think I just checked with the office. We're at 40. We can hold 50. If you're going to register, you need to do so tonight, so we're prepared. By tomorrow at the latest. And we're happy to see you. Don't keep us a secret. You have to get Social Security right. You have to maximize the amount of money you're going to get from Social Security, because it can mean hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime, right? So integrating this with your other assets to make sure you're maximizing and taking the taxes into consideration. I had a gentleman come over to me and he goes, wow, I never thought about the taxes and the tax aspect. It's important. And it is complex, and you need to deal with folks that know what they're doing. And in professional planning services, we do. So I just want to say, hey, if you can make it, great. And then the last thing I wanted to say is that I will not be here. There will be no call for, I think it's the next 2 weeks. So next Thursday, there's no call. And the following Thursday, there's no call. I'm celebrating my 60th birthday, and I'm taking my family on a trip. So we're going to be sailing the high seas on a cruise. So doing that. So these next slides are all disclosures, right? Allianz, we have to put everything out there. They own PIMCO. These are all, their disclosures. I have to show them, so just humor me. 3 pages of disclosures from Allianz. So anything financials, anything I say has to be true. And that's why I pick my words carefully, because I'm not here to show pie in the sky numbers. These are strategies, and I think they deserve more than a look. And then lastly, this is their last index. This is our disclosure from Brookstone, and it just basically says I'm an investment advisor with them. Guys, thank you. God bless. I'll see you in 2 weeks. If you have any questions, reach out to our office, and I'm happy to help. Bye bye.